Hello there, world of tankers, and welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Droodles Blitz, and in front of me we have the Tier 10 Italian Collector Heavy, the Felice. Now this vehicle, I already made my review on the other day when it was released, but since then, I have purchased the tank on my main account with the Felice containers. I actually got a little bit lucky. I think in total it cost me $100 to get my hands on the vehicle, which is pretty inexpensive judging that it cost about $250 to $300 if you want to get it guaranteed. So I'm not going to complain at all. But the Felice is a very fun tier 10. It's also one that is pretty dang OP. It's got a 4-shell 440 alpha gun, and that allows it to deal an insane amount of damage, as you can imagine. But it's not as overpowered as you'd think. For example, it does have a 4.5 second intro clip. That means if you want to deal all of the clipping potential, you're going to be looking at 4.5 multiplied by the 3 seconds, so it's 13.5 seconds of time to deal that damage. Not only that, but Shell 1 and Shell 2 have incredibly long reloads. For example, Shell 2 on paper has a 10.86 second reload, but if you pair that with the 4.5 seconds of intro clip, that actually means you're looking at over 15.5 seconds of reload. So actually Shell 3, Shell 2, and Shell 1 are all very close to each other in terms of time to reload, and it's only Shell 4 that actually gives you decent DPM. So what DPM are we looking at on this tank? Well, if it's a 17-second reload, all we need to do is 60 divided by 17.2, and then we multiply that by the 440 alpha. So this tank, when basically shooting Shell 2, 3, or 1, is going to be looking at around 1500 to maybe 1800 DPM, making it by far the lowest damage per minute tier 10 in the game. It's only on Shell 4 when you actually have decent DPM of around 2300, 2200, as we can see in the listed values. So with that being said, sure, this tank is really, really good, and it is incredibly dangerous when you drive it properly. And you're going to see some replays that I've starred here today. But while it does have those very dangerous strengths, it also has some big downsides. 1500 DPM is pretty dang awful, and it's definitely something you'll have to keep in mind when using this vehicle. So here we are, game number 1. What are we going to do in this battle? Well, we're going to start by going up the bridge. You're going to see just where the Felice dominates with its clipping potential. 440 damage per shot is really nice because it's enough to outtrade most of the enemies that are against you, right? I mean, if we look at the enemy, the team, the Rhino we outtrade, the Kron we outtrade, the BZ-75, if it's running the 660, we don't outtrade, but if it's running the 460, we're almost sitting at the same damage per shot. And apart from that, nothing else really has good alpha damage compared to us. And then the thing is, we have 4 shells, so it's going to be very hard to actually counter me. So just like that, we already have dealt 440 damage, a pretty lucky shell into the enemy boss Chatillon, and I'm slowly moving up. We got the Kron in front of me, aiming, boom, a 468, and we're going to get to a side scrape. Now the crazy thing about this vehicle is that it actually has crazy good side armor. A lot of players think to themselves, oh, it's an Italian tank, it probably doesn't have crazy armor, but you can see that there. This thing's side armor is pretty wild. So you get a 390 into the enemy minnow, and I'm not able to get another shell out, but we do have the BZ, which I get a nice 400 to shell into. We're up to 1700 damage now, and I'm just going to wait here. I've got my teammate in the AMX-50B behind me, and I'm just going to sit and wait for my shells to get back, and I told my teammate, just wait for them to make an over-aggression. There's nothing else you got to do. So we got 3 seconds left. 2, 1, and boom, we got all 4 of my shells. That is 1700 potential damage. So I shoot the BZ once, that's 497 into that player. I reload again, I shoot the BZ again for another 488. And even though this vehicle does have a long reload, doesn't matter. We just took that BZ out of the game, putting us up to 3,500 damage. I get close enough to the Kron to a point where they can't see my lower plate. They end up bouncing. And look at that. Pretty good stuff. 3,500 damage, and we're still alive. So what am I going to do now? Well, as I mentioned, your DPM is very, very similar on single shot as it is Shell 2 and even 3. So it doesn't really make too much of a difference whether you dump your clip or not when you only have a couple shells loaded. So we're going to reload and aim it on the rear of the enemy Kron. putting us up to now 3,978 damage. We're going to push past the 183. We got the enemy Caro in front, aiming. Bonk. 392 damage. And just like that, it's actually all the damage I end up dealing in this game. 4,370. But we blocked over 3,000. And that is really the best example of where this vehicle's armor is so good. It's a super heavy armor profile with a gun that can dish out damage like crazy. And unlike the Minnow, which only has about 2,000 health, this vehicle at 2,750 hit points means that it can also survive an absolute beating. So we end up acing the game, we finished top of the team without even breaking a sweat, and had a pretty solid overall result. Then that brings us to Windsor Malinovka. Up against us we have a 60 TP, M6 Show, WZ-1115A, and an IS-8. Not to mention a 113 GFT and a T-30. The only medium tank on the enemy team is the enemy T-100. Apart from that, it's quite a few, heavies, which is good. I love going up against heavies. It really is... It's the best situation to be going up against heavily armored vehicles, especially in a vehicle like this, because they're slow and you can rip them apart without having to worry too much about your DPM. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to push towards base C, and I'm going to support my teammate in the O. So here we go, moving up. Nobody's crossing just yet. Nobody's spotted. There we go. Got the enemy IS-8. So I'm going to aim it on the IS-8. There's 420 damage. We're going to angle the tank. We get a bounce from the WZ. There's another 450 damage. We're going to aim it again. There's 474. And we're going to get one final shell. Boom. Just like that, we did 1,670 damage into that enemy IS-8. And we brought what was a pretty healthy vehicle down to nothing. Tell me that is not insane. It's absolutely insane. No tank should be able to do this. I really don't think any tank should be able to do this. What Wargaming should have done is given this tank a 440 alpha, 3 shell, and given it a little bit more DPM, a bit faster of an intra clip. It still would have been really, really dangerous, but at least then it wouldn't be this dumb. But like, yeah. And I'm not really sure what that WZ was doing. They poked me. Maybe they didn't think I had a shell or something, but yeah, they bled more health to me. We're already up to 2,000 damage. And like, sure, my DPM's only 1,500 right now because I dumped my clip. But it's not like I need the DPM. We already killed a full health IS-8. So I can just sit here, wait a little bit. And the thing is, your DPM's only that bad if you were to sit on single shot. But if I dump my whole clip, then I wait for the shells to load back, I actually have closer to about 2,000 damage per minute, which isn't nearly as bad. So we aim it on the enemy WZ, we get the clearance of that player, we aim it on the enemy 113, we get a shell into the lower plate, boom, they're taken out of the game, and that leaves us with 2 vehicles left, the M6O and the T30. So what are we going to do here? Well, we are going to move up and try and get some damage into the enemy M6O. Keep on going, we got the T30 on the flank, we got to wait 5, 4, 3, 2, alright, let's aim it on this T30, aim it on the turret cheek, boom, there you go. And then that just leaves us with the Yo. I was thinking to myself, what do I want to do? I fire my first shell into the Yo, and then the question is, do I want to continue shooting this player, or do I want to wait for my next shell? We're going to wait. We're already up to 3,250 damage at this point, so I'm just going to wait a little bit longer. 3, 2, 1, and boom. There's one shell into the enemy Yo. 268 shoots him, bringing him down to 300 HP. We get another pendant to that player. Just like that, we did 4,086 damage, picked up 5 kills, and once again, had just such an easy result. The gun on this tank is just so good when you pair it with the armor. And the mobility, sure, it's not great, but like, this thing actually has good capabilities when using it hull down and when using its armor in general. So we get another ace and a pretty solid game overall for the Felice. So we got 2 more games to look at here. We got this battle on Yamato Harbor. Space was in the YAG this time. I was having a lot of fun in this tank, and I figured, you know what, because I was having so much fun, and because I spent so much money to get my hands on this vehicle, screw it, I'll make a video on this tank. So, here we go. We're going to head over towards base A. Now, the thing is, even though this tank only goes 30, it has an okay power to weight. So because of that, it usually chills at 30. So it's not like the worst experience ever. So what do we have up against us? We got one heavy, which is a 60 TP. Apart from that, we got 3 tank destroyers and 3 mediums. So at this point, I'm just going to keep crossing and crossing and crossing until we make it over to this gap here. We got the enemy grill, and okay, well, the Ag backs up. We got 470 damage into the Ag. We aim it again, and boom, there's another 440. I drive a little bit ahead, and the Ag cannot pen me through the track wheel. We've assisted 1,000 damage by spotting the Ag and having them turn towards me. And this is the funny part, right? This enemy grill here thinks to themselves, oh, I'm going to be able to beat you, right? So we get a bounce. Now, unfortunately, you're going to watch in a moment here, the Yag actually manages to shoot me. But we get a bounce from the grill, and they have 1,700 health. So all I need to do at this point is wait. So the Yag does shoot me, but in a face hug, the grill really can't do anything. We get 2 shells into the grill, 3 shells into the grill, and we reload just slightly longer. Boom. Yep. We just killed a full health tier 10 German tank. In tier 10, we full healthed it. Just 4 shells, we reloaded all, and they're out of the game. Think about that for a second. Can you name another tank that can do that? Well, there is the Waffenträger Alfie 100, but even the Waffenträger has so many downsides for the capability of 1,700 clipping potential. Sure, it can deal the damage in a much faster time, it has way more DPM and even mobility, but it doesn't really matter when this tank has armor and better gun depression plus hit points, right? It's the same thing as the Minnow. So here we are. What are we going to do? We're already up to 2,600 damage. And we got the enemy Sheridan, which I get a nice 416 damage shell into. We're going to aim it again on the enemy object 140. Boom, get a clearing shell into them. And now we're up to 3,200 damage. Now I was very, very tempted to shoot the 60 TP. And I'm really just thinking of what I want to do here. And I said, screw it. That 60 TP's got a lot of health. I'm going to move up and try and shoot them. So I'm going to keep going here. Keep on going. Keep on going. We're going to wait just a little bit longer. 3, 2, 1, and we get my shells. So there's 1 shot into the enemy 60 TP. 2 shots into the 60 TP. Come on, reload. And we get 3 shots. Unfortunately, we cannot break 5,000 damage because we end up winning on base cap. But the fact that I was able to just get so much out in this game, again, you just don't even worry. You have so many shells, you have so much armor. Look at this. This game alone, I ended up blocking 2,880 damage, dealing 4,630, racking up 2 kills, and once again, acing the vehicle. It's just so crazy good. And that brings us to the final battle for today's video on Himmelsdorf. Up against us, we have a Caro, 215, B-Type 71, E75, and an ST1. That's a really, really good result here. Whenever you're up against a bunch of heavies, that's when a super heavy really shines. Super heavies struggle against mediums. Now, to be fair, this tank is not as big of a problem, because look at the size difference between the E100 and the Felice. Look at it. It's not even close. The Felice is probably a third of this, the E100's overall size. And because of that, it means that this tank is much easier to hide. And not only that, the armor on this tank is flat better than the E100's. The turret is over 400 millimeters thick, and while it does have a very easy hatch to hit, it doesn't take away from the fact that most skilled or unskilled players are just going to aim it on the turret and bounce. The upper plate is great, the gun depression is great. The only downside really is the fact that the DPM is on the lower side. That's it, but it's really not that big of a downside, because if you shoot this thing on its single shot 4th shell, you're going to be sitting at around 2,200 DPM, and then you have 3 additional shells of 1,200 damage that you can use whenever you need. So it's very hard to actually counter this thing. So we get a nice shell into the E75, and we're going to wait, we're going to reload. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we got our shell back. Head over here. Got the enemy Type 71, and we get a nice shell into them. Now this game here is going to be a great example of where I was tempted to dump my shells, but I didn't, because I know that I'm going to lose DPM doing that. So we're going to aim it on this Type 71, and we're going to go against them single shot, right? So they shoot me once, we're going to overpoke, we're going to get a nice pen back into them. We have more health than the Type. We have way more damage output than the Type. And this is why this is just not a vehicle you want to mess with, right? So Type 71 aims it on me again. They got the penning shell. And again, I'm going to get another nice shot into the Type. 550. Do you guys want to keep fighting me? Well, we get... not going to do it. Not going to do it. I'm going to reload. 3, 2, One, and boom. Okay, we got the clearing shell into the 75. Then we have the Type 71, which I aim in on. Boom, there you go. Unfortunately, you'll notice that we do get penned right through the hatch. You can pen this thing through the hatch. It's definitely something to think about. But in return, I say, screw it. I'm going to shoot the Foch because he annoyed me. And why not dump my reserve shell, putting myself already up to 3,522 damage. That's it. That's all it takes to deal 3k in this vehicle. You pen 3 shots on single shot, you dump the clip, 3k. That's all it takes. It's so dumb. So if the enemy 2 and 5e, they managed to hit my turret instead of the hull, which is pretty chill. And at this point, we are going to reload our shells again. We're on shell 2 right now. Boom. Okay, that's shell 2. We're going to reload a little bit more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and gonna load an HE into the back of the Caro for 565. The Caro dies, gonna aim it on the ST1. There you go, nice 413 into the ST1. We're gonna reload another 430 into the ST1, and just like that, we did 4,931 damage. I mean, it's just such a stupid tank. It really is. This is by far one of the more overpowered tier 10s. And I know a lot of people always like to say, oh, Droodles calls everything OP, but like, seriously, when you give a tank this much armor, when you give it this much clipping potential, and it doesn't really have many downsides apart from, I guess, mobility, it's a little insane. The only other real downside I can say about this tank is the pen is not great at 358. But apart from that, there really isn't much to say negative about the vehicle. I've only played 6 games, but in those 6 games, I've aced it 5 times, and I'm averaging 4k. I do plan to 3-mark this vehicle, but I'm not going to play it anymore until we do get the marking requirements out, because as of right now, as you'll notice, this tank is new, and we've got to wait up to 14 days until it is able to be marked. So I guess we'll find out. Either way, hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.